Welcome to Pips-N-Chits. Today I'm going to do a quick unboxing of the Army Painter wet palette, and this model was introduced in 2019. And I've been using a wet palette myself when I paint miniatures, and by no means am I a master artist in any way, shape, or form. But I would like to think that I'm somewhere close to beginner to intermediate, and I do pretty good. But anyway, the last couple of years I've been using a wet palette by Masterson. It's called the Stay Wet, and you can pretty much pick those up at any hobby store. There's also a lot of YouTube videos online how you can make your own wet palette, but in all honesty, they aren't really that expensive. So if you have a couple extra bucks, I would go ahead and invest in one. Now, the reason why I wanted to get this Army Painter wet palette is while the Masterson one is okay, I didn't really care for the sheets that it comes with. These handy palette acrylic paper sheets. They're actually pretty thick, and to get these started you more or less have to almost boil hot water or submerge these in water for a good 10 minutes to get somewhat somewhat permeable, and then put it on the microfiber sponge. Well, a couple things. Over the years, that microfiber sponge has kind of started to disintegrate, so I needed to replace it anyway. And also, as good as the Masterson is for the price point, every once in a while it tends to get a little mold in there. So that's another thing too. If you're going to use this wet palette, I really would suggest using like bottled water or distilled water. Water from your tap can introduce like elements that might mold, and if you don't keep it closed when you're done painting, you can introduce bacteria into the paints, and if you don't clean it out every so often, you can develop a little bit of mold buildup in your wet palette. So a wet palette really basically is just supposed to keep your paints a little bit more soluble or usable for a couple more hours. It's not meant to permanently, keep your paints moist, day after day after day. You're lucky if you use paint one day, you might be able to use your paint the second day. That is, you might even have to activate it by putting a little bit more water in there. But this really just is supposed to extend your ability to paint at any one sitting, and it helps keep the paint a lot more usable instead of drying up relatively quickly. Anyway, let's get right into it. As you can see here, it says wet palette. There's some grooves here that we'll look at more in depth here in a second, but to hold your paintbrushes. But this comes with 2 hydrofoams and 50 hydro sheets, whereas when you buy this in the store you only get 30 sheets of this Stay Wet stuff. So let's take a look and see what's inside. So first we'll go ahead and take the cellophane off, and let's flip this over and see what we have here. It says the best wet palette there is, superior quality and custom designed to keep your war paints preserved perfectly smooth and creamy. The wet palette comes with 2 sheets of hydrofoam and 50 hydro sheets. This can hold up to 6 Wargamer brushes and 10 hobby brushes from the Army Painter. Shows you the dimensions, 13.8 centimeters by 19.8 centimeters. We have the brush holder here, we have a safety strap, and we have the bottom, which claims to say, there's a little asterisk right here, says protected with anti-mold agent. I think that probably helps deter or slow down mold. I can't really believe that it actually absolutely stops any mold growing, but it might hasten it if you don't clean out your palette very often. So with that, let's go ahead and crack her open. Okay, let's flip her over, see what we have here. We have the assembly and safety tool guide from Army Painter, and this pretty much comes standard with most of their boxings here. It shows you all the different tools that you can get, how that they would be used, the glues, sprue cutters, how to assemble models, how to add magnets for special pieces if you wanted to magnetize your miniatures, how to pin them. A little handy guide here, and again on the back here shows you their tools and accessories range there. Next up, we have another little pamphlet in here for hobby products. Again, it looks like just another catalog showing their current types, their colors in their generic war paint line, their different brushes that they get, color primer sprays, more tools here, quick shade, the different grasses and terrain that you might get, some war paint sets, battlefield basing sets, and if you haven't checked it out, go ahead and click on the info tab up there in the upper right hand corner, and you'll see where I unboxed the Battlefield's basing set from about I want to say from 2018. I think I did that video, and I don't think it's changed since then. But anyway, let's set that aside and get right into this little bubble wrap here. Okay, we have a plastic case, and we have a good stretchy band here. I'm not quite sure. There's a little plastic piece that comes off, but anyway, an elastic band to go ahead and secure this around the case. Let's go ahead and open up the case. We have a top here, just plastic, nothing super spectacular about that. We do have our brush holder, if you will. And let's just see what kind of brushes we can hold in there. So let me just take a look at some of my. As a matter of fact, I have an Army Painter brush. They kind of fit kind of loosely in here. Oh, that's a little tighter. This middle one's kind of tight, but these ones on the end are a little loose, if you will. But just to keep them a little separate. And here's an area that I guess you could keep some of your larger brushes, if you will. As long as you clean them out, and don't worry about getting the tips. That's kind of, I'm not sure how long this brush is, but I can see the tips are getting a little smushed up there. But anyway, you could go ahead and leave that on there like so. But let's go ahead and take our brushes back out. And let's see, we'll take this lid off, and now we have our basin right here. Again, plastic. There's a little bit of a footing that goes around here. Not sure if that holds anything. Doesn't look like it does. No. So I just think it's a footing here, just maybe that helps keep some condensation built out when it's resting on the table. But anyway, let's go ahead and dig into this right here. Let's see what we have. All right, another thing, we have another advertisement here, the full range of 124 war paints. And before you use, read before you use, shake, before you shake, paint, ready to use, how to clean your brushes, tips up, etc., things do and do not do with your brushes. We have a little thank you in here that says, oh, well, that's pretty nice. If you have a smashed, missing item or broken, contact the Army Painter and we will fix your stuff. So a little advertisement in there. Anyway, looks like we have our two Hydrofoam sheets. I'll go ahead and open up one of these. Let's see if I can. Oh, wow. It's actually kind of tight in there. So where's my... All right, so we have a foam sheet, and that would fit basically right down here. Unfortunately, it doesn't look like it's going to cover the whole. Maybe it expands a little bit. I'm hoping that it does, because that looks looks like you have kind of a big gap that kind of goes all the way around the corner there, where a lot of the times the sheets, at least in the Masterson Stay Wet palette, it's pretty snug or at least flush in the plastic tray there. But these ones don't seem to be. But the good news is you get two of them. So there's those two, and then we have our 50 sheets here. And let's see. And let's see if these fit a little bit better. So I'm going to open that up, and I'm going to take one sheet out. And I can tell you right now, this sheet is something I probably like a lot better than the Mastersons. It's more like a parchment paper, almost like a baking sheet paper. If you're, if you have someone that makes cookies or pastries in the kitchen, but that one seems to be a lot better, closer fit. And of course, this would go on top of the sponge there, and you put your sponge and get it wet, and place this above, and kind of press it out so it stays nice and flat. I am surprised, however, though, that there's really no instructions here, and not that you should really need instructions. It's pretty straightforward, but I'm actually kind of surprised. Generally, in the past, I've seen wet pallets at least have a little bit of instructions, how much water to put in, how you clean this up a little bit. But I don't see any of that in here. I'm looking back in the guide, and I don't see anything on here as far as instructions go. So let me check the box. Oh, you know what? I take that back. There's one more thing inside the box, and it is a painting guide. But again, all it is a painting guide. It's, again, showing you how to paint the Army Painter way, but there are no real instructions for how to use this wet palette. That would have been nice. One single sheet, kind of recommendations if you've never used a wet palette before, what you can expect, how you should clean it out if you so choose. Maybe if you needed to order or reorder some of these sponges or these foam sheets, how you could go ahead and do that. Otherwise, that's kind of disappointing. I'm actually really surprised about that. But like I said, it was a very quick unboxing and showing you the 2019 Army Painter wet palette. And I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any comments or questions, go ahead and leave it in the comments section below, and I will try my best to get back to you. Anyway, my name is Jason for Pips-N-Chits, and I hope you enjoyed this unboxing.